Welcome to the Gnarly Girls podcast.
What's up, gnarly beings?
This is a loose-lipped, unfiltered, raw-dogging, stripping down of culture.
No fucks, no panties. This is a labia of love.
We're your hosts, Tony Naj
and Serafina Supernova. And this is Gnarly Girls.
Hey, Sarah, how's it going?
Hey, Tony.
Welcome to Gnarly Girls. Today, we're going to talk about how Jeffrey Epstein is grape culture.
Yeah, he is.
What a reach. I mean, how did we come up with this? I think it's kind of funny that we haven't talked about it too much. I definitely talk about it a lot on my Come Inside of Me podcast because it's always in the news, but we have never explicitly talked about Jeffrey Epstein as grape culture. That we've done parts of it in our What the Fuck is Grape Culture for like early episode, but I don't think we've gone into him, obviously, because so much has been coming out in the past couple months.
Yeah, let's go. Let's dive on into his dry, dusty hole.
Okay, so the thing that I wanted to start off with, because I've been wanting to make a video about this, so it'll be a good promo for the pod, is I think that there is a cataclysmic pandemic for survivors of sexual assault right now because of the way the Epstein case is handled. And because there is like such a lack of justice, I think what's happening is everyone who's experienced sexual assault, which is a huge portion of the population, they are going through advanced PTSD somatic symptoms. And I think this is why eating disorders are on the rise. I think this is why period disorders are on the rise. You know, we did that whole podcast about the periods and stuff. I think that's why emotional disorders are on the rise right now, especially of those people who have suffered assault, because witnessing the president get accused over and over and over and over again of child rape and having zero repercussions beyond like yelling out into the void, I think is very triggering.
Yeah, it is. It's like, oh wow, there is no consequence, which like reinforces the lack of consequence that most of us who have been perpetrated have watched our perpetrators live with, without consequence. We've watched them live without consequence.
And I made a video about this too, but I'm going to quote myself. I'm going to quote my past self. But I kind of had this realization about the prison industrial complex. And so just to give a little refresher course, the prison industrial complex is about the privatizations of prisons, which means that prisons are for-profit institutions. And as a for-profit institution, the product that the prison is selling is prisoners, right? So the more prisoners that are in the prisons, the more profit is provided for the prisons, right? So that is why you have the Rockefeller drug laws, so more people will be in prison. That is why ICE is also, it's like an arm of imprisonment of slave labor. So you would think, from a purely profit standpoint, if we're looking at the for-profit model of prisons, that putting rapists in jail would be more profitable. And the fact that only 3% of rapists are convicted. So that means not even 3% of rapists, 3% of rape cases that go to trial, okay? And only 3% are going to prison. That is inherently telling me that it is more profitable to keep rapists on the street.
Yeah.
It is more profitable for grapes to be happening than for grapes to not be happening. And that is something we have to wrap our head around. That is why Jeffrey Epstein is grape culture. It's not just the obvious grapes are happening. It is a commentary on the profitability of grape, which we kind of have to deconstruct and undangle.
Yeah, I mean, going back to our last episode, we were talking about puss problems being connected to sexual assault and surviving grape. It is profitable for people with pussies to be repressed and in pain because then we're in too much suffering to rise up and fight against the system. So those two things in tandem are really, really interesting.
Yeah, as long as people are healing from sexual assault, they are easier to control. And I would argue, as long as the perpetrators are doing the mental gymnastics to defend their sexual assaulting, because they have to do the mental gymnastics to defend it. They have to make sense of their actions. They're not like, wow, I feel, even if they are to feel bad, what do they do with that feeling badness? So the all consuming nature of being a perpetrator or being perpetrated upon makes us all easier to control. Therefore, it makes more sense to keep rapists out of prison than in prison because they make more money off of the social control.
Ouch.
Yeah. And not to quote myself again, okay, but like I had a moment where like I woke up and I'm like, fuck, man, I have been saying this for so long, and I'm not the only one who's been saying this for so long, but I just remember when all the Puffy stuff was coming out, it was controversial for me to say, if you think Puff Daddy is the end of the story, if you think the music industry is the end of the story, wait till you get into the political world. Wait till you get into people who really are being bribed. And I remember how controversial that was to say. That was only a year ago.
Yeah.
That was when we like got back from Scotland. And that was like my constant commentary on Puffy was like tip of the iceberg, y'all. So I do think that like from a year ago, from that being very controversial to now it's common knowledge, pedo, grapo politicians. That's a lot of progress in 1 year. That no one would deny that now, even though when I was saying it a year ago, even when I was saying it 20 years ago, can you imagine? People did not want to hear what I had to say 20 years ago.
Even when we did diddling with political identities, I remember how edgy that episode specifically felt in that moment to not be like two feminists against grape culture who were clearly endorsing a specific like candidate and person. Something about that felt really edgy. And that was at the beginning of the podcast too. And we
Which
were
was
just
not
like,
that long ago.
it was not that long ago. And
Yeah,
so
so
much.
I highly recommend if you haven't listened to the episode we did diddling with political identities, where I kind of go into my history of why I've been talking and thinking about this for 20 years. It's because of my personal research, experience, and exposure to the Grapo politicians, which again, I'll just remind everyone, began in the early 2000s, began around 9/11, like post 9, like very post 9/11 is when I started realizing or being exposed to the fact that like they're all rapists and they do mind control and they create sex slaves with mind control.
What do you think is going to happen next with the Epstein files? Like, what do you feel that 2026 has in store? If we were to do an energetic quantum psychic channeling report around that.
Okay, let's think about it because I was like, oh wow, I kind of did have a naive potential hope around the 19th, when they were supposed to be this big release around the 19th. I was kind of like, okay. And then, so little was released. Everything was so redacted and manipulated still that I was like, okay. However, I think that what people aren't ready to talk about is the cloning. What they're not ready to talk about is the eating people. What they're not ready to talk about is the experiments and like, why was Bill Gates there? Why was Noam Chomsky there? What was going on with Stephen Hawking? So it's like, I think culturally people are starting to just like believe the raping of children happened.
Yeah.
Now, I hope in the next year, it's starting to believe all the other stuff these girls were talking about being experimented upon. Like all of these things that I think are really hard for people to wrap their heads around because it's okay. So I had um so how do I want to like protect anonymity, but sometimes in the work that I do, I come across people who have very extreme stories, right? And their stories seem so extreme that you're kind of like, what? You know? And it is my work to just not be in a place of like judging someone's story, wondering, are they delusional? What's happening? I just open my heart up to like, okay, this is all possible. And in fact, it is more powerful to torture someone to such a degree of that they're not believed, right? So just like a classic grape, okay, we can believe a classic grape, but the level of torture that these people do to people and children is so it's like so hard to accept the possibility that it's unbelievable. And that is why the level of torture is so extreme. Like that is the thing that I'm going to print. The imprint is that I think culturally we have to really understand the level of torture is beyond what you could possibly imagine. And the imagination level of the extremity is why we're going to have a hard time believing it. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
I don't think it's ironic that like believing that child sex trafficking was happening became co-opted as a right-wing QAnon conspiracy belief, just like all of these other things in terms of like the elite and like experimentation on people medically, but also spiritually, and maybe there's even some interplanetary stuff happening. The lumping in of that with like alt-right QAnon conspiracy theory, like to me feels so obvious. It's like, of
No, it's
course,
what I've been saying the whole
right.
time.
I think we even talked, I think this was like a large part of diddling with political identities too. It's not like the first time we've said it on here, but that it does feel like something about that, as you're saying, has gotten broken open. We're now believing the truth that child sex trafficking has been happening and is like a huge global, like new world order level ring, is no longer specifically associated with the alt-right and QAnon. And I think like conspiracy after conspiracy is going to be untangled from that, which was intentionally created as a web by I think across political party lines, because the Epstein files go across political party lines. So it was a bipartisan agenda to make it seem like all conspiracies were connected to the alt right. So then leftists and radicals would be embarrassed and shamed out of even asking those questions. Like, I do believe we got to a point where, like, even I was watching people's like thoughts be censored about like questioning certain things. Like, even if you were to think a thought about a conspiracy, now all of a sudden in a 2020, 2021, 2022, even 2023 world, you are labeled as like a problematic alt-right conspiracy theory, whatever the fuck, when actually it was incredibly brave to continue asking those questions through an age of deep censorship, which we're still obviously living through, but there has been like shifting tides.
No, I mean, this is what I've been saying the whole time is the co-opting of the alt-right happened because the administration changed. And you got to understand, like, this is what I was living. I was living this. This isn't theoretical. I was living the world of 9/11 conspiracy in real time. I was living the world of talking about Jeffrey Epstein, talking about these people in real time
Yeah.
in the early 2000s. And that was a left wing movement because it was a right wing administration. And this is why Obama and the rebranding of America through Obama was so dangerous, because not only did that make liberals complacent because he was platforming on change and he was not white. And so everyone was like, okay, this is going to be something different. QAnon and Pizzagate and all these things happened under Obama. Like QAnon birthed under Obama because the left wing radicals that were once my compadres started to be silenced or silenced themselves because of Obama. And to question authority was to question Obama. And no one wanted to question Obama because we all wanted to believe that the system still wasn't broken. And as that became more clear, that is why QAnon became more the purveyor of quote unquote conspiracy, and Pizzagate was around QAnon only because of Obama. That would not have been possible with a conservative leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. And the amount of bullying that then proceeded around the pressure to vote for Hillary. I mean, that was like, I was so young. I was still in school at that point. But I remember just like feeling bullied to vote for her in the primaries over, um, uh, uh,
So have you ever heard of Frazzle Drip?
yeah.
Did you hear about it when Hillary was being, no, or is that something I told you later?
I don't know. I don't think I knew about this because I was just like, I feel this, I feel Biden in my belly, and everyone around me is telling me that it's irresponsible to vote for him because he's not going to win.
Biden? You mean Bernie?
I'm so tired. Yeah, no, not Biden.
Bernie Sanders?
Bernie Sanders, thank you. Like
We didn't even have a chance to vote
no,
for Bernie
that's
Sanders.
how deep the shame goes. Like I rode so hard for Bernie, and I was
Yeah, but
just like,
even riding for Bernie, it doesn't matter. The DNC stole the election from Bernie. You didn't get a chance.
no, but do you even remember like in the primaries, if you were to like choose voting for Bernie over Hillary, you were automatically just seen as some like you don't actually take democracy seriously. Like this man is not. I mean, I was in like a very academic, like liberal setting at that time where that was even like coming out of the
Well, again,
university.
during that, did you know about Frazzle Drip or not?
I don't think so. I feel like I found out about this later. Because I barely
From
even
me
knew what
or from someone
Pizzagate was.
else?
Like my dad told me about, I just wasn't aware yet.
So, like, again, like I was aware.
Yeah.
So, this is the thing that was also really dangerous is that there was a group of people who are progressive leftists, who knew the depths of sexual assault, of torture, of abuse that the Clintons were involved in. And there was no possibility of speaking that publicly because you were called right wing, even
Yeah.
if you knew, even if you were exposed to that information. So I feel now people are like kind of hearing about it. But if you haven't heard about it, look it up yourself. It's an incredibly I've never watched it. I refuse to watch it. Like I have to protect my peace, but it's around torture. I think and this is again the adrenochrome. I have been hip to adrenochrome for a very fucking long time. This is what the right wing we're talking about, and this is what the left wing is not ready to start looking at. But I
No.
believe 2026 has to be where the left wing gets hip to the fact that adrenochrome is fucking real.
Yeah.
And it is a commodity. And if you could admit that the slave owners ate their enslaved, which is just a historical fact, you have to admit that the settlers ate indigenous people of America. American settlers ate indigenous people. These are historical facts. I'm not making this up. This isn't a conspiracy. People eating, cannibalism, blood ritual is baked into our history, okay? Like
Yeah.
it's not a conspiracy. And also, you can read about the historical fact that the British monarchy and European elites ate mummies. You want to know where the mummies go? They're in the tummies of these elite. They ate them. That's why there's so few mummies, because they were eaten. So get hip to the fact that adrenochrome, which is blood that has been spiked with extreme fear as a commodity, is why they're torturing these children. And if you're going to say that sounds QAnon,
Get a life.
it will not be in 1 year. It
Yeah.
will not be. That's going to be common knowledge in
Yeah.
1 year. The adrenochrome is going to be common knowledge, and it has been co-opted.
Yeah. Like get out of your own way and stop actually putting yourself at the center and realize the centering of your own discomfort around acknowledging that these are facts is actually you getting in the way of the revolution. So get out of the way. Also look at the light of God just shining through behind me as you say this. Like my higher self is on my shoulder, like, yes. And I do remember my dad and I have like gotten in very few fights over my life because he is a monk, even though I am a monster. And I do remember him trying to like, because after I voted for Bernie and then he didn't win, I was like really distraught and I was just in a really like lonely place in my political journey. I feel like I was like making a lot of individuation and like separation from old groups of friends and like finding my way to anarchy. I was like 22, really thought I was like on one. And I remember him telling me not to vote for Hillary and like talking about Pizzagate. And it's like, like one of the only times we like really got in a fight because I was just like, well, I'm not going to fucking vote for Donald Trump. And I did vote for Hillary, but I didn't feel good about it. And there was this part of me, it's like where I can relate to people who like, it's like I've literally had the experience of like, I know that what's happening is fishy, but like to cross over the line and then like look at someone who's postured as this like symbol of progression and actually hold their full humanity and understand that they are not the savior and they do not represent the revolution that you're looking for. I think it does require a level of like spiritual maturity and also like acknowledging that there's so many things that are happening that we do not see. And like it is immature, I think, to put your trust in people who we've been told to look to and like are the authority and are the ones that are going to heal us, which again is what we talk about in diddling with political identities. This light right now, what is happening?
I know. And this is the other thing that is a living nightmare as someone who's been challenged so much about this from so many people, because again, like this has been my entire adult
Yeah,
life, decades, is that I recognize that Donald Trump is a living nightmare. Of course, I would never vote for Donald Trump. It's a
ever,
living nightmare. It's a living nightmare. He's a
ever,
living nightmare.
no matter
However,
what.
we have to be honest, there is no way that the left would be critiquing Kamala Harris. There was no way they would be critiquing her in the same way about the genocide. There was no way that the left would be critiquing her in the same way about the Epstein files. It just wouldn't happen. It would not happen. And that's the problem with the system, is that like the only time the left wing gets galvanized is when the other people are in power. And it's like, no, 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 my dudes. You have to have the same critical instinct towards anyone in power. Even if you vote for Kamala, even if you vote for Hillary, you have to tear her down to the same degree. And that is the danger, is that the second a left-wing president or a Democratic president comes into power, it's like all the Democrats literally go into a coma. Not
Yeah.
all of them, but a huge portion of them. And it's like, why are you only galvanized when there's a right-wing dictator? Like that is on you, like the level of fight that we have in us should have been going the whole time Biden was president. And like the amount of people that were just quiet about genocide because Biden started it. Biden started a genocide. That's it. Like fucking swallow it. We have to swallow that. That the level of dissent we should have been doing then as progressive lefts.
I saw a video on Instagram yesterday. It was just like in my Discover feed of being like, guess who wasn't in the Epstein files or isn't in the Epstein files? And it was videos of Biden. I was like, you're so fucking lame for thinking that this is a clapback. Like, you could just Google Biden and little girls in the White House and
Yeah,
watch.
Biden sniffing children. Like
I literally remember watching videos of that right
you
before.
should watch Ted Cruz. Watch Ted Cruz with young girls. And he may or maybe you weren't invited. Like I don't fucking know. It doesn't mean you don't molest children.
Stop defending these white people is really the point. It's like,
Stop defending fucking authority.
yeah. I mean, even Mom Dami winning, like, I did feel excited that day. I was like, yas. But then, like, I think you maybe said it to me or someone else I saw said it. It was like, okay, well, now that he's in office, this is the moment that we start questioning him and cannot trust him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that cute little, like, setup at the White House with Trump. I'm like, y'all, all of this is theater. It is theater.
Well,
If you're
it's like
still
Erica
believing.
Kirk and fucking what's your nuts, Nicki Minaj, who's broke and who's mind controlled. And if you don't know about Nicki Minaj glitching, if you don't know that Nicki Minaj has been MK'd Ultra for a very long time, you are not spending enough time investigating. Because Nicki Minaj has been glitching forever. I think the thing is that like my algorithm on TikTok is very connected to Black creators. And Black creators have been talking about glitching for a very long time.
Yeah.
They've been talking about mind control for a very long time. They're also watching videos of these people glitching. So Nicki Minaj being the perfect person to mind control, have a conversation with Erica Kirk where she accidentally says JD Vance is an assassin.
Crazy.
Because she's been MK Ultra, because she's been mind controlled.
I was
And
like,
Like I think I did this on my podcast too. So like if you listen to both podcasts, I'm sorry to yell at you about this, but Jesus Christ,
No, they
the
like it.
amount of billions of dollars that the CIA has invested in mind control, in metaphysical human powers, like just take some time
Yeah.
investigating.
Yeah.
And like that is their main way of social control is mental control. So yes, of course, they can mind control Nicki Minaj. You can implant memories. The WEF talks about this openly. This is what they do.
And they also know that realms of hell and heaven and higher dimensions and lower dimensions exist, and that the easiest way to manipulate people's relationship to that is through the mind. It is through the mind. And like this higher self light on my shoulder, if you're not watching this on YouTube, this shit is crazy. Like, also by disconnecting our like direct relationship with our knowing beyond knowing, like knowing beyond what we see and take in the media, like knowing and beyond what people tell us, like just our direct knowing. And I do feel like if people were to actually connect with that in their bodies, in their bellies, they'd be like, yeah, adrenochrome actually is not that far off. What's far off is at this point thinking that that's not happening. That to me is like you're far off. You're out to space.
And I get it. It's like I have a friend who keeps being like,
Look at this. Look at what is happening here. Look at these
no,
portals.
the light
No,
is,
what is happening? This is like, it's literally, I can see like a realm happening. What's
yeah,
going on?
no, the light is going.
Above Marilyn Monroe's head, too. She's like, I'm here.
Oh my God, another person where the
Right.
truth, I mean, she was definitely murdered.
She was definitely murdered. I think she's one of the smartest women that ever fucking lived.
No, she was murdered
Yeah.
without a doubt. And then they raped her body. So
Yeah. Probably ate her too, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe she's too pretty to eat.
they did rape her body, though, her dead body, like
Ugh,
multiple people.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I do think the next phase for 2026, Year of the Horse, it's about momentum. It's time for us to just like interdimensionally travel through realms of information that certain people have been holding down for decades.
Yeah. And like, I think the thing is that just because you don't want to believe something doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah,
Just because it's upsetting, just because it's beyond your imagination doesn't mean it's not happening. Guess what else is beyond your imagination? Dark matter.
right.
Okay. Like we don't understand it. Guess what else is beyond our imagination? Quantum physics.
Yeah,
Don't get it. Nobody
yeah,
gets it.
yeah,
Still very mysterious. Doesn't mean it's not real. Doesn't, like we still don't have a unifying fucking equation between general relativity and quantum physics. Like, do you understand the level of things we do not know? It is like we don't know 99.99999% of all things to know.
yeah. I mean,
So
I
going
always
back
have,
to how Epstein is grape culture,
yeah,
I mean, it's so obvious, but I think the Lolita stuff too.
yes, please.
So did you read the book?
No, but I've heard you talk about this. Continue.
Okay, so I did read the book, and the book is basically this guy, the man's perspective of his relationship with this 12-year-old girl. So you're getting into his head. You never get her perspective. And I think the thing about it is that quoting Lolita like all over these victims, is another indicator of the mental gymnastics,
Yeah.
right? It's like somehow I think like, well, like I don't want to repeat I'm trying to think of like what I said on my pod. I don't even know what I say on videos or podcasts anymore. I feel like I'm just like
I think it's actually
screaming as a
important to
boy.
repeat yourself. I think people do need to hear it multiple times.
Okay, so I think the thing that's most indicative with Lolita that's worth recognizing is that his rationale is twofold. One, that he Humbert or whatever, he was traumatized when he was 12 because the love of his life died. So he fell in the love of his life, whatever. He's a 12-year-old boy. He fell in love when he was 12. She died. So he kind of sees this obsession with Dolores, who he calls Lolita, as like the fact that he never really recovered. So he never emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally recovered from this trauma at 12, and that he is still her equal, kind of her 12-year-old equal, even though he's in this like 40-year-old body. The other rationale he has is that he sees her as seducing him for two reasons. One, she's like sexy. he sees her as sexy and that she sees all her actions as flirtatious. So that she's like doing these flirtatious, sexy acts. The other thing that makes him believe that he was seduced is that she's not a virgin, that she's been touched before. So, like, he, and like when I think back to the scene of them like actually, well, he's graping her. It's a grape. It's a statutory grape, no matter how you want to fucking slice it down. We're still only getting his perspective, okay? But his perspective is that she initiated it, you know? And that doesn't even mean it's true. It just means that it's his perspective. He's not a reliable narrator. In fact, like Nabokov says, like, he's not a fucking reliable narrator. But it's like all of these ways in which this guy makes sense is why I think they're quoting Lolita over these women's bodies, because like I wouldn't say the book is absolving the main character, but like kinda. You don't leave the book hating, you're not kind of like, what a fucking sicko. You're kind of like, it's a mind twist, right? Because you're like, okay, you're kind of like, because you're in his head. In any sort of narrative, when you're in the head of the person, there is this kind of like excusing one does. And the other thing is that at the end of the book, they get separated somehow, and I can't remember how it happens, but she's only 17 or something at the end of the book, like still underage. She's pregnant, and he goes to see, not with his baby, he goes to see her, and he's like looking at her as this, like, he used to call her a nymphette, like that was his thing, a nymphette, like a nymph, but like even younger. And when he goes to see her and she's pregnant, he's kind of like, yuck. Because like there is no like and you know what else this like makes me think about, and it might be like kind of, it's like almost like how women can be friends with men, but men really struggle being friends with women. And
Yeah,
I
they
think
do.
that leads to a lot of confusion, because I can be friends with a guy. Like, I humanize men, but men objectify women, which is why it's so hard to just be friends with a woman. And it's like this girl was so deeply objectified as this nymphette. She was so dehumanized that this like pregnant mother, he was like, ugh, like
Yeah.
basically repulsed from what I remember. So it's like she was never even a human, and he the whole thing is like he sees himself as romantic and in love with her and blah 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 blah, where she was like completely fucking objectified.
Yeah, I think what people don't understand is you can make an excuse for anything. And
Yeah.
like there's like a doctrine to um excuse any sort of abusive behavior, especially towards women. Like any single religious text that you pick up, you can find justification for the abuse, objectification, and subordination of women. Like that is
Mhm.
just what it is. And I think when I watch Christians talk about this, like women, what women, men, whoever, like the way that they will use the scripture to justify the oppression. I know it's like not a new thing to talk about, but it seems connected to the using of Lolita. It's almost like academicizing it, like highbrowing it or something.
Yeah.
Like that's what I feel specifically in the Lolita of it all. It's like, and I think especially in that specific group of like elites and billionaires, like I think they fancy themselves intellectuals.
Yeah, and that's like a quote unquote like it's part of the canon. It's great literature.
Right.
Lolita is great literature rather than like pedo porn.
Right. Like you're just reading pop culture feminism, so of course you would think that this is inappropriate, but let me bring you into the real romantic literature of it all. And if you were more advanced, then you would see why this is how the elite and the advanced function. And they
Yeah.
believe it. I think that is the other thing that what I'm picking up from what you're saying that we all need to really like sit with is that they believe in what they're doing. It's not even like they're on the fence and defending what it is. It's like they have fully committed to the bit and believe that what they're doing is justified for 1,000 reasons. And
Yeah.
that is part of like their own mind control that they've consented to in order to then like outsource that mind control onto the people. And it
Yeah.
seems like also a lot of this they think is going to like normalize humanity to trafficking. Like I'm sure somewhere in like Trump's cabinet, they're like, well, this is actually good because now everyone is going to become more desensitized to this. And then they're not even going to take it seriously. Now people are just like, at one point, I feel like people were like stopping and listening to Epstein file stuff. And now it's like there is this scrolling that happens, just like in relationship to the genocide, because it's like, you normalize people to the level of violence that's happening, and then it's not sensational anymore, and they stop paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's possible.
But hopefully not. Like hopefully not this time. Like my prayer is that that's not what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like there has been a normalizing of genocide. And also I think the thing that's difficult about the genocide is that there's multiple genocides. It's impossible to even keep up with
Right.
how many there are. And then you're like, wait, there's a new one. I just was listening to this woman talk about a genocide that's going on in like a region in Ethiopia, in a country like I had truly, and I know I like at one point knew every African country, and I was like, wait, I've never even heard of this country, and there's a genocide happening.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know if like a new country formed since I studied this, and like potentially, of course, a new country can form, but I didn't know a new country formed. And then there's a genocide there, like, and I think there's almost like so many genocides
Yeah, and
that
like
were
of
like,
course Bill Gates is probably involved.
oh, always Bill Gates. And then it's like
So obsessed.
there's the multiple genocides, and then the sex trafficking is so ubiquitous. It's now getting so common that like people are literally making jewelry, like earrings, to like protect yourself from potentially getting sex trafficked. It's like it is becoming normalized, or just like commonized.
Yeah. Are you witnessing men? Like, I don't know why this question is even coming up, but maybe it's even for our listeners too. Like, how are you experiencing men responding to the Epstein files and what's happening? Like, what are you noticing as like a general consciousness and theme amongst the masculine?
I mean, I would say that like I go back to what I've been saying for a long time is the men that are evolving at a rapid rate.
Mm-hmm.
And the men that are refusing to are devolving. But I see more men evolving because of this than I've ever seen in my years on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exciting. The
Yeah.
amount of men that I see changing, opening, listening, talking, defending, curiosity. I've never seen this. Never.
Yeah. Yeah.
Way more than with Me Too. Way more.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think also what we're going to start to discover is that a lot of the men who are down and willing and get it are also victims of assault, or they've watched it happen to women in their lives or women in their families. And yeah,
Well, they're just not, I think it's more like there is this energy where men really aren't seduced by masculinity anymore.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And they're not like afraid of being called a pansy. And a lot of these men are pretty masculine, I'd have to say. Like a lot of the men like making videos or whatever. I actually have a whole other new theory about masculinity, which we don't even need to get into. We should do another podcast about it because I have a lot to say about masculinity after making some videos about it. But I think that like there are the guys that I see that are like the most openly vocal are kind of like pretty secure. They're not like they're secure. They're secure dudes.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like physically like look strong and like I don't know. It's not like it's like the classic like new age like like I see it a lot more with just like a regular fucking dude. I don't know how else to say it,
Yeah, no, if anything, the new age bros, I'm like, y'all need
They
to
need to step it
continue.
up.
You
They're
need to,
not. I think it's
yeah,
more honestly, it's more like dude, it's just dudes. And that's what's more
yeah,
exciting about it and more interesting. It's like unexpected dudes. Like
yeah,
there's this one guy that like He is a super like badass looking biker dude. Like he looks scary. He looks very scary. He's very tall, he's intimidating, he's big, he's got muscles. He looks like a scary white man, and he just kind of goes around on his motorcycle, and I mean like I think it's a little like I mean like it's performance art, and he's just like he goes and he fucking trolls people in real life about supporting Trump. And it is so aggressive, and like no one's gonna fight this guy. No one wants to fight. He is using his like quote unquote my not I don't know why I said quote unquote. He is using his not quote unquote his white male privilege to just intimidate people and just to be like fuck you, just like how about fuck you? How about fuck you?
Yeah.
And none of and he just like posts these videos of himself, and like no one knows what to do because they're scared of him.
Yeah.
And like those are interesting men that are like using their physical domination, their confidence domination, their like security in their broness, or how I don't know how to talk about it beyond that. Like I know I'm like speaking in like um stereotypes.
Well, I think the problem with spiritual bros a lot of times is that they get incredibly self-involved and they lose the plot. They like start out on a journey of liberation and then it goes into this like narcissism and they lose the plot versus these like macho dudes were always like getting off on being like the one to protect. And so they get what's happening and then they're like, I'm going to redirect my protection energy because now I understand. But like the spiritual bros have to go through this sort of like devolve to evolve. And then a lot of them just get stuck with like their little hats with feathers in them.
Yeah. Because you know what it is? They think they're more evolved than they are.
Right.
You
Right.
know? I think when there's like some
And they're
humility about
always white. And they're always white.
always white.
Yeah.
But when there's some like humility about still learning and still kind of being like, what the fuck? And also just like not being, honestly, now that I think about it, these men are not afraid of other men. They're not intimidated by other men.
Yeah.
They're just not. So like being called a simp or like a beta or whatever, they're just like, it's kind of like when someone, and this is going to sound so wrong. Okay. I'm just going to like say something that like I'm not supposed to say out loud, but I'm just going to like fucking say it. It's like when I make a video about men or something, and like someone tries to say, like, oh, looks like you can't get a guy, or like you live with cats, or like you obviously have never had like an alpha guy. I'm like, I have a mirror.
Yeah. No,
Like
the
I
amount of
see
men,
myself. I'm like,
women,
the
and
amount of dick I
non-binary
have
people.
access to, dude, the amount of dick I have access to, like, is mind-boggling. Okay. Like I can see my own body. I see my face. Like, you're out of your fucking mind if you think like saying that like I can't get a guy, it's like that's comical, I'm like, you're so yeah, I'm like, you're so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Like you're that is not something I'm insecure about, like, oh, Tony can't get dick. I could,
You're like, if only I could get less.
yeah, I could literally spit and a dick will be in my face, like, and the type of guys I attract, I'm sorry, you would be scared of. I attract some scary ass fucking dudes,
Yeah.
because
Likewise.
the only guy that can handle a woman like me, I'm sorry, is just like, that is a strong fucking scary dude. Okay. That is a dude who punches walls because he is terrifying. So like, that is never going to insult me. And it's kind of like when these like kind of like these guys who are like talking about the Epstein list, like defending women, are like actively investigating women's period problems, and some guy tries to call them a simp. They're just like, it's like, you're an idiot. Like that's not who I am. I like swim in pussy. Like these guys swim in pussy. That's the whole point. That's why they could do it. It's because they're pussy swimmers.
Yeah.
They are swimming in pussy, and that's why they can defend women. And that's why Nick Fuentes is a fucking virgin. That's why he hates women. Anyone who can, and like it's even that Andrew Tate. I get that Andrew Tate, I guess, gets pussy. It's like confusing, but you're
Because
getting
women
the
hate
pussy.
themselves.
You're getting pussy of women who hate themselves,
Right.
and so that is like. And I love those women, and I goddess bless those women. But
I was that woman.
like that's not the sex that you're gonna like. The sex that's gonna be really interesting is with a woman who you don't, who is just like, I am not doing that,
Yeah.
Because then it's like, what can I get this bitch to do? Because she's gonna say no to a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what actually makes something excited. Like the level of like things I will not do sexually makes me so much more exciting sexually because it's so hard to get me to do fucking anything because I don't care about your dick. And that is actually more interesting than a girl that would do anything you want her to do. And I'm sorry, it just is because it's more like, fuck, well,
Well,
what?
because someone who will do anything you want them to do, there's no way that person is not going to self abandon at some point within that dynamic. And I say that as someone who has lived that reality. I actually was just telling my friend, shout out Axel Rosie the other day on the Winter
I love
Solstice.
Axl Rosie with
Oh,
all
we
my
fucking
heart.
love Axel Rosie. I was telling her, I was like, yeah, I think, what were we talking about? I don't even remember, but I was telling her about getting fucked by this guy on spring break and how like there was this certain position we were in and like he was fucking me so good, so good, so good. It felt so good. My legs in the air, over behind my back, whatever. I was like being so loud. I knew like 30 of my other friends were like in the room next door and could hear me. Didn't care. I was like, this is my like coming out as a slut. I love to get fucked. And then I walked out and this guy, it was like 20 minutes later, he was kissing another girl in the driveway of the house that he had just fucked me in. And I was like, because I had also, like, he fucked me so good, but I had also been doing things within that dynamic that I wouldn't have done if I wasn't so obsessed with a guy who would fuck me and then go, like, kiss a girl 20 minutes later that I could then see. He wasn't even trying to hide it, you know? I'm like, wow, this is how much respect this guy has for me. And I had to really be like, yeah, this is about how much I hate myself. And that was a journey of multiple years, maybe even 5 to 10 years of coming out of that. But eventually we did.
But again, this is why graping kids is so important because you would not have had that orientation had you not had early trauma,
right.
Early childhood
I
trauma.
wouldn't have been a pick me if I had not been picked to be fucking sexually abused.
And like, that is not your fucking fault.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that is
No,
not
I
your
was so
fault.
much hotter than him too. That's why I was like, what the fuck? That's the confusing thing is like hot girls also getting like so confused. Like the amount
Because
of
hot girls are
losers.
abused, hot girls are molested, hot girls are used.
People say
Like
pretty
hot girls,
privilege. I'm like, pretty privilege what, motherfucker? Cause what?
the only way pretty privilege can really be privilege is that if you happen to get out of childhood without being abused.
Yeah. That wasn't me.
Which is
That
not
actually was
easy.
something that was like used against me too when I was in college and I was hanging out in groups outside of my school group. I would like go and be in the downtown scene and like try to make friends with like all the punks and the anarchists. And there was this sort of like there was this reoccurring thing that even people would say to Max like about me having I'm like forgetting the exact context, but I remember it being like, well, Sarah has pretty privilege. Like I was like pretty and bubbly hanging out in like a group of like really punk people, like finding my own punkhood. Like I literally come from like the father of punk. Like all my dad ever listened to was like hardcore punk growing up and like inundated me with that. And like it was a part of me. So of course I was like drawn to this group, but I was not accepted because of the fact that I am pretty and I'm fucking hot. And so somehow you couldn't be like pretty and hot and also like a punk and
You
interested.
can, but only within the aesthetic of like that is the punk aesthetic.
And I was not interested. I was like, I'll be wherever I want, whenever I want, wearing whatever I want. And yes, my tits will be out.
Yeah, so I don't only think it's like just the pretty. I think it's like the non-conformity.
Yeah.
And I
Isn't it
think
so
that is
funny?
the issue of a lot of subgroups is that
Right.
subgroups are still asking for conformity.
Right. They think that it's about rejecting something, but actually there's just a reinforcement of another microculture that you have to then fit into. Yeah. So I really, and I remember actually battling Max about this because he was kind of like defending that pretty privilege was a thing. Like you are, like when you're pretty, you get ahead more in life, which I understand why people think that, right? Because we do worship beauty in our culture. And also what's not understood from that POV is that the root of grape culture and capitalism is also that beauty is fundamentally extracted from. So
Well, no. It's not only just that. It's that beauty is the commodity that women have.
Right.
It is a financial exchange.
Yeah.
and it's an
Right.
energetic exchange. So the privilege, it's like, let's take Ariana Grande. Why do you think Ariana Grande is starving right now? It's not just because she was on the set of Wicked, it's because she was obviously connected to the Nickelodeon fuckholes who were molesting kids as she was on Nickelodeon shows. And like we started off the podcast, we must end the podcast saying that anyone that's being re-triggered because of the Epstein files and because of the lack of the accountability. Of course, Ariana's eating disorder is going to be coming up because she was also a victim of the Nickelodeon pedo ring. There's
So
no way she wasn't because she was so pretty.
I feel so defensive of her. I heard her sing on Saturday Night Live. It was interesting. Cher lip synced, which was tragic, but fine. And Ariana's like, even the way I was like studying the way her jaw moves, and I was like thinking about what must be happening in her throat and pelvic floor. And I was like, this bitch is so talented. And like, I wanted to like weep because I was like, wow, she just, like, I don't want to judge a woman for how she looks, obviously, but I'm like, you are very clearly emaciated and starving, and you're so talented. And I just want to like, I want to
But
like
then again,
sob
that this is
scream.
where pretty is a is vulnerable, right? Because she was pretty, and of course, a lot of the Nickelodeon kids were molestoed by purely being in proximity to the Nickelodeon molesters. You are going to potentially and most likely get molested. But like the thing about pretty privilege is that like what it's actually holding you, it's like it again, it's like it only is real if you are able to frogger yourself out of not getting great. And most people aren't, especially in early childhood. And if you happened, and the theory I have about the early childhood grape is that I think the victims that like the adults will choose victims
Right.
that won't be believed or won't tell,
Yeah.
that won't be believed or they won't tell.
Yeah.
And I think that is why talking about this is so important because if you empower children to tell, it only is going to happen once.
Yeah.
That's the most it can happen.
Wait,
Do you know what I mean?
can I ask you to end this to give the example of what you gave to your kid when she was hesitant to share about what she needed, and how you were like that you basically gave her a way to disrupt that cycle of feeling like you can't speak up because it's going to be inconvenient, or you're going to be judged, or you're not going to be heard, or you're not ready to say the full reason of why you're not able to do something. Like, I just feel like that was like for children and also for all adults and our inner child inside of us.
Okay, I'll try to tell the story as also as vague as possible too, you know. But when my child was young, there was an instance that made her uncomfortable. And she told me about the instance that made her uncomfortable, and how I dealt with it was to talk about it, obviously talk about it openly, but also to bring her together with the child that made her uncomfortable and let her say that made me uncomfortable to that child, who then could say, "Oh, okay." And then we had a conversation. This is like the kids are 4. They were young. And then there was a conversation around like what is appropriate around our autonomy. How do we handle this? Why is this important to talk about? What happens when adults do this? What happens when other children do this? Why is it important to know what feels good or what you don't want to do? It was a conversation you can have with a young child that was not traumatizing. No one was traumatized. We had the conversation over ice cream. But the conversation was had, my daughter was believed, and she got to speak to the person. I don't like that. And they got to say, "Oh, okay." Like that is like, this is what we have to normalize, is the second you hear something happening is talking about it openly to everyone involved. Everyone has to be involved and like, oh, okay. And the conversation isn't like, shh. It is just saying like it is important when anything happens to our bodies, we have to be able to talk about like, oh, this happened and I did not feel safe.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that should not happen again. But the only way it's not going to happen again is if we feel comfortable saying this happened and I did not feel safe, you know?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we freeze. Otherwise, it just keeps happening.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think with the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, like what we want, how this can be a model of ending grape culture or at least like minimizing it is around conversation, you know? And obviously, children are victims. Hello, like the children are the victims. The children are the victims. The children are the victims. And it's not just 13-year-old girls, it's children, it's children, it's children. It's more than 13-year-old girls. I mean, that what like it's children. Children are the victims.
And the
So,
fact that that's not young enough also for people to like alarm bell is like so such a mirror and a window into where we're at.
mhm.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein is a grape culture, but it's up to us. It is up to us to end grape culture. The grapists are not going to end grape culture. The pedos are not going to end pedo culture. It's not how it works.
No, they're going to just find another text to absolve them of responsibility and spiritually defend themselves. And this is why we need a spiritual revolution, because it is ultimately, I think, what I pray that we get to in 2026 and 2027 is the understanding of how and why this is a spiritual war.
Wait. Do we have to promote anything?
Oh,
We're
I'll
going to
just say in the
Florida.
description, Florida tour info is there. Um, we have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, three different things happening. It's a different amalgamation of the workshop. You can add on a cacao ceremony. You can add on food. You can join us for our comedy show that night. All the information is on our
There's a lot of
website.
comedy shows. There's a comedy show
Yeah,
Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night, and we're doing grape culture.
yeah. And Men Come Inside of Me and the D Spot. And we have a special guest, Shelly of Disco Cat Comedy.
Yes. And Shelly is going to be our special guest and Shelly's the one that's bringing us there. So shout out to Shelly.
Shout out to Shelly. What a
Go
nice
to my
angel.
gram and you'll see all the flyers. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday, I think it's the 23rd, 24th, and 25th.
I think it's
22nd,
22nd.
23rd, and 24th. I don't know. You go. You can just like go. The tickets are on my website. The tickets are on grapeculturehealing.com. They're on my website, tonynaj.com. Also get my fucking merch. The merch is cool. Book one-on-one sessions with me. Book one-on-one sessions with Sarah. Um, and get my course. I made a course. It's called Free Your Body and the Rest Will Follow. And the price will eventually go up. So get it now when it's at its cheapest.
Yes. Okay, great.
Bye.
Bye.